Allochromatic. In terms of color, there are two types of gemstones, idiochromatic and allochromatic. And so if you just think of the etymology, idio, like idiosyncratic, that means it can only be one color. In case I haven't mentioned this before, I was a staff gemologist at the Gemological Institute of America. I used to teach diamond grading, colored stone identification, but a long time ago. But so idiochromatic, I happen to, because of my lifelong love of gemstones, I have some here. So for example, here is a sphere of lapis lazuli. Well, that's a substance like malachite or rhodochrosite that really only is going to be one color with some small variations. There's no green lapis lazuli. It's always this royal blue. Whereas we've got like corundum. Okay, we've got another one right here. Corundum is, if it's red, we call it ruby. If it's any other color, then we call it blue, pink, whatever, sapphire. It can be any color. Quartz. If it's clear, we call it quartz. If it's purple, we call it amethyst, like this amethyst sphere. If it's yellow, we call it citrine, and so on. Beryl. If it's blue, we call it aquamarine. If it's green, we call it emerald. Now, in the past, before scientific gemology, gemstones, for anything red was and transparent was called ruby. So like the great ruby in like the crown of England or something is actually a red beryl. It's not a ruby at all. But most of the important gemstones, well, let me read you right from the card. And so allochromatic, chroma, color. So allochromatic, all colors, idio, one color. Because of their chemistry, idiochromatic gemstones like rhodochrosite, peridot, and malachite can only be one color. The most important gemstones, however, are allochromatic. People often don't realize it because they only hear the trade names like ruby or something. They can be all colors because in a pure state, they're clear and colorless, and various impurities can give them any color of the rainbow. We covered a beryl, for example. And other allochromatic gemstones include diamond, topaz, tourmaline, garnet, quartz, spinel, and nephrite jade. But some colors are more common. So green jade is more common than some of the other colors, but some of the other colors of jade may be more valuable because of their rarity, just like the hope diamond that's blue is more valuable than an uncolored diamond. But it depends on what the colors are and other factors when it comes to pricing gemstones. Many years ago, when I was a staff gemologist at the Gemological Institute of America, I was fascinated with the allochromatic aspect of gemstones and found unusually colored diamonds to be particularly fascinating. Maybe the most beautiful gemstone I ever saw was like an 18-karat emerald cut diamond that was sort of lavender with pink overtones. The allochromatic gemstone is, but whatever you do, don't ever buy a round, brilliant diamond if you can possibly avoid that. So first of all, right now, it looks like they're no longer able to tell synthetic, which are now a lot more of from natural diamonds. They're kind of a monopoly from De Beers mining. Their price is very inflated. They're much more common than people realize. Diamond is just carbon. And they also kind of ruined round, brilliant diamonds with because of the work of a particular Russian Jewish mathematician who lived on the Upper West Side of Manhattan at the same time I was living there for a while. I forget his name, but he designed the geometric proportions of the round, brilliant diamond, where he made the table larger, that's the biggest facet, and then the upper star facets that go around that table smaller. And what that did was, as compared to, say, the much prettier, the old miner's cut that existed before the modern round brilliant diamond that had a smaller table and larger upper star facets, is that the classic and what's considered correct proportions maximize brilliance, which is the tendency to throw out flashes of white light, and diminish dispersion, throwing out flashes of prismatic light, which I think is much visually much cooler. I tend to like colored lights, you may have noticed. And thereby making round brilliant diamonds ugly. I mean, maybe this is why gangsters used to call diamonds ice. They look cold because they have more white light the way they're optically designed than dispersion. So that's my peeve on diamonds. But they're extremely overpriced. They are the diamond seller's best friend, not a girl's best friend, as the De Beers mining ad would have you believe. They don't last forever. Nothing does. And especially don't get round, brilliant diamonds. All right, I'll move on from that. Oh, and by the way, another thing, a ridiculous thing about diamonds is that diamonds have an affinity for grease, and that's how they used to mine them. I don't know, my knowledge is out of date, but they'd have a conveyor belt with grease on it that would pick the diamonds out of like the slag basically coming out of the mine. But what that also means is that if you wash your hands even once in soapy water, the soap is going to adhere to the back of that round brilliant diamond called the pavilion, and all the light's going to leak out the back. So unless you're going to put it into an ultrasonic cleaner all the time, probably not the best choice. And since no one can tell the difference, might as well get a synthetic diamond that's going to be cheaper and optically much better. Also, cubic zirconia. It's not as hard as diamond, but optically it is superior with more dispersion and a better refractive index and stuff like that. Anyway, you just got a free wrap on my opinionated view of diamonds. Let's get back to allochromatic. The human soul is like an allochromatic gemstone. It can be any hue of the rainbow. Some individual souls, however, seem idiochromatic. They've developed a certain color and change very little. The conscious, complete, empowered individual, however, must be allochromatic. Certain states of enlightenment may allow a highly evolved soul to experience the clear and colorless state where one is aware of the unmanifest potential for color. A well-lived life, however, requires one to be prismatic, opalescent, and sometimes chameleon-like. The whole person will need to be able to illuminate with many colors. An actor is an artist who portrays many colors. A novelist conveys many human colors with words. The creative, alchemically empowered person conducts many colors through a prismatic psyche. An unconscious person may fall into an idiochromatic stagnation of color, while a highly imaginative person shifts color like a screen illuminated by myriad pixels. When an unconscious person color shifts, it happens like fate, without their individual choice often, and something causes them to fly into a rage of fiery red and orange, or they collapse into a dysphoria of blue. This is the opposite of the actor who chooses the colors they want to transmit. An unconscious person is always acting out their native color, smearing it onto the outside world like oil paint carelessly squeezed from a tube. When a dog changes color, it always physically acts out. It's always physically acted out. It wags its tail, it barks, growls, whatever. It has no private colors. Similarly, a baby or a small child doesn't. A conscious person, however, a fully realized adult, can shift colors in more intentional, subtle, and creative ways. They have more color range and color response ability. They may have private colors that they choose not to reveal in public. Core aspects of being human, qualities such as emotions, sexuality, thoughts, drives of any kind, talents, ethical stance, attention, and perception are the colored radiance of a soul. One can try to color from the outside with clothes, cosmetics, and personas. To perceptive people, the core illumination of a soul will be sensed, and it is the core illumination that affects the boiling cauldron of colors comprising the collective unconscious of the species. Depending on the position, the occurrence of this card indicates an auspicious time to become more aware of yourself as allochromatic. Access the full spectrum of colors you need to access. Realize that you can access colors on the subtle plane and don't have to act them out. An artist may imaginatively explore dark red, for example, and express it in a chosen medium. An unaware person acts out dark red and smears it around in the outer world. The conscious person takes responsibility for inner colors and those they act out. The inner cauldron of colors affects the larger cauldron of colors. The visionary will project unique combinations of color into the collective cauldron. Take responsibility for yourself as an allochromatic entity. You are a cauldron of many colors radiating into eternity. And it seems like there's a cultural realization of allochromatic in that we tend to value rainbow or prismatic things, or that would show the whole spectrum of colors, as we should. So LGBTQ+ uses rainbow as its icon. So does the rainbow gatherings that I go to, though it is not connected directly to LGBTQ, though often that's mistaken because now rainbow has been so strongly connected with LGBTQ. But that full spectrum rainbow aspect is something that all humans should identify with. And I've had a number of pieces of jewelry made. I don't know how well this will pick up on the camera, but like, for example, well, so some of these bracelets are more idiochromatic, like this is all synthetic rubies. This one is all got little cabochons of citrine, but this one, each thing is that's citrine. That looks like amethyst. That's blue sapphire, emerald. What is that? Amethyst. That might be garnet, and so on. So each is a different color. This one also has a bunch of different colors. So use this as a talisman. Things that, like, I love things that are iridescent, like labradorite, peacock's feathers, things that reflect many colors. Can help you to remember that allochromatic way of life, that full spectrum way of living.